Hari Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta jana kalyane niratam karunamayam namami chinmayam devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Sri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarottam Pravaram Munina Patanjali Pranjalina Natosmi. Hari Om. We are in the second sadhana pada of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We are trying to dwell upon yama and the niyamas. Amongst the niyamas, we have seen shaucha, we have seen tapa, we have seen santosha. Now we want to see swadhyaya. To understand svadhyaya, which loosely is translated as learning, that it is not such a superficial word. To understand swadhyaya, we need to understand how the consciousness or chaitanya is exhibited in the diversities. We all know that in this world there are enormous amount of varieties of expression of consciousness. The diversities that we see in this world, the multitude of species, jati that we see in this world are nothing but expression of consciousness, chaitanya abhivyakti. Even we are called as a vyakti, but we are not a vyakti, we are abhivyakti. In Gurudeva's word, all these varieties are matter vestures, ashtada prakruti kruta jiva upadhi, through which consciousness is constantly pulsating. Now, if we keenly observe the distribution of consciousness amongst the different jivas in these varieties of this world or the universe, we realize that there are some upadhis where the consciousness is expressing itself in a very fine manner, while in some it is expressing in a very crude manner. It is not the defect in the consciousness, It is defect in the expressing material. A stone is equally conscious as you and me, but the expressing material, the upadhi, is so gross that the consciousness is not properly expressed by the expressing apparatus. A human being is the finest expressing apparatus of the consciousness. We all know that there are variety of animals in this world. We have a unicellular animal like amoeba, which has only one cell as its body or expressing apparatus. In case of a stone, the expressing material being very, very crude in nature, the consciousness expresses itself only by presence, not by sankramana. As we move forward from the stone to the plant kingdom has a better expressing material than the stone, and it is able to express itself to a certain degree utilizing the consciousness within. As we come to the animal kingdom, the expression of consciousness, because of the availability of finer expressing material, the matter, it becomes easier to express the consciousness, which results into a movement, moving from one place to another place, showing the recognition of another entity. A plant can show or recognize presence of another entity to a certain extent. A plant called Mimosa pudica or Churimui, if we touch, it suddenly contracts itself. What it means is learning to express oneself in relation to another constituent of this universe is a high evolution of consciousness. A stone will not react howsoever close you may go to him. Throw the stone, break the stone, there is absolutely no reaction. So the consciousness here is not expressing itself in the form of recognition of another entity. A plant kingdom recognizes another entity as something not me to a very little extent. But when it comes to animal, there's a recognition by one entity of the another entity develops, and we call it as perception. Perception is recognition of surrounding by oneself. But mind well, recognition comes at a cost of self-centeredness, meaning for me to recognize others, I must presume that I am me. So that means I as an entity has to develop. Moment I am able to recognize another, that can be recognized when this is presupposed. The consciousness which is there in a one cell animal like amoeba recognizes the light. and contracts itself and also develops small functions like eating and drinking, phagocytosis and pinocytosis, which means eating and drinking by a unicellular animal. Now imagine when couple of unicellular animal come together, they become multicellular animal. Our body is comprised of many systems: cardiovascular system, central nervous system, autonomous nervous system, excretory system, gastrointestinal system. That means the body is comprised of systems. What is the system comprised of? System comprises of organs. The endocrinal system is comprised of thyroid, adrenal, ovary. So a system is comprised of organs. An organ is comprised of what? A tissue. A tissue is comprised of what? Cells. So the ultimate unit in our body is what? Cell. Each cell has a distinct ability to perceive another cell. If that is the case, then multiple cells are there in multiple organs, tissues, and multiple tissues are in organs, and multiple organs are in the system, and all the system have made me as a human being. Then the perception of single cell of the lining of my stomach also has a consciousness expressing there. But it is a limited consciousness. When a multicellular animal is formed, I am aware of myself as an entity, which is the sum total of consciousness of all the cells in my body. A one cell having consciousness about itself is unicellular animal. Multicellular, multiple cells having, each of them having their own consciousness, but collectively a collective consciousness gives rise to an entity called human being or animal or plant. These are multicellular animals. When multicellularity comes, what happens to the individual consciousness of each cell? Each cell carries its own consciousness. However, multiple cells coming together and forming an entity forms a thing called entity consciousness. You don't have to be aware of brain cell awareness of individual, one particular brain cell called neuron, and multiple such 19 or 19 billion neurons collectively has already given you a feeling. That collective feeling is a feeling of a human being. I hope I'm making my point clear. The point is, consciousness can be divided into smaller and smaller and smaller expression, or it can be collective consciousness at a higher and a higher and a higher level. In my body, if multiple cells need not tell me their presence, but a collective consciousness gives me an entity called I am my body. This body is mine. This mindness is sum total of collective consciousness of all the constituents of this body, the cells. However, when I point out to Himanshuji or Pradeepji, I know that my consciousness is not extending to him because he is other person. I am me. I do not have an iota of consciousness recognition of Himanshuji's body or mind. because it is as if cut off at my outer aspect of my body. Everything else is cut off from me. So all that becomes that or other or idam. Now imagine if the multiple cells of my body can give me one collective consciousness as me, then if I am able to recognize this particular handkerchief as me, as mine, then I will not be specifically aware of handkerchief as handkerchief, but this will become my own entity of consciousness, as if it is one of the cell of my body. As a result, what happened? Not only I knew this in and out, it became a part of me. So that means it is possible through certain exercises to expand the consciousness consciously beyond the limited entity called body and extend that consciousness to cover the other entities that are there around you. A yogi takes any one entity from this world, which is so far called as that entity, and tries to extend his consciousness into that thing so that that thing becomes mine. And once you practice and succeed in this art of making anything which is away from you as yours, the same can be applied to everything that is around you, resulting into expansion of consciousness, which will cover multitude of things. All that becomes one entity. And when this practice, which is called meditation, extends to a great extent, covering all that is available around you in the universe, you become virat pursha. Now you have one body, but the body's dimensions have exceeded from your own limited body to the body of the world. Similarly, the mind of the world, the virat and the hiranyagarbha respectively, as they are called. In other words, it is possible to expand the consciousness beyond the confines of your body with the help of certain techniques which are available only to human beings. Why to human beings? Because till the extent of you coming to the stage of human beings, right from the stage of stone, the evolution of consciousness is by God's will. And when it comes to the level of human being, the God gives authority to the entity called human beings to expand it further on his own efforts. So the natural evolution of consciousness, which is happening for multitudes of billions of years, comes to a stage called human being. That is where the Lord lifts the door and opens the door and lets the consciousness, by effort, enlarge itself to reach to universal consciousness. That is Godhood, that is Ishvara. In order to know this, in order to understand this, in order to really brood and think about this, in order that you should make this effort, you must know, we all must know what is a scripture or a shastra. The science of this particular unfoldment of consciousness is called shastra. Shastra because it is shastum icha. Shastum is a discipline. Discipline means if consciousness is not used in a proper direction and manner, the development of consciousness will not take place. Rather, it may get thwarted, throwing you back into the lower rungs of consciousness, which is called tiriyak yoni or the lower yoni. So that means we need to learn, understand, and then train ourselves in utilization of available consciousness so that it can be further expanded in a disciplined disciplined manner to reach the higher and higher borders or boundaries of consciousness, higher and higher realms of consciousness. This particular act of understanding and then utilizing the understanding for training is called svadhyaya. Mind well, the word has swa as an important component. However many Gurudevas may come and go, unless we ourselves do something, nothing is going to happen. So Swadhyaya, the fourth niyama, which is a must for all of us. That is why in Sadhana Panchakam, Acharya says, Vedo Nitya Adhiyatam. Nitya Adhiyatam. You learn and study the scriptures of the Shastra Nitya. It is a different story that on Friday, Ishwarji reminds us of this 2 hours or half an hour before breakfast, but that is for the learner starters, not for the serious sadhaka. The serious sadhaka, the Swa Adhyaya has to be a Nitya Adhiyatam, continuous process. How do we do it? We do it with a clear background in the mind. And what should be the background for the study of scriptures? The background is, I am seriously interested in expanding the consciousness that I have within me beyond the limits that have been set to me by birth, and take it forward so that my consciousness progresses further and further and further till I reach the level of universal consciousness or Ishvara. The constituent of Swadhyaya is, of course, reading. Read, read, and read. Why do we read so much? When we read, we get an idea or sankalpana. All the great stalwarts and the rishis like Gurudeva, Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Acharya Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Vallabhacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tukaram Maharaj, Sant Jnaneshwar. Keep reading what they have to say. That is a Swadhyaya. And read and do what? The entire Swadhyaya gets completely obliterated if the reading hasn't helped in expansion of consciousness or making you spiritually disciplined. All the reading is watered down. Moment we think that the reading is meant for getting more knowledge, more recognition, a complete defeat of Swadhyaya takes place. Unfortunately, because of our tendencies in the transactory world or the Vyavaharika Vishwa, we read because we want to tell it to somebody. We are studying Patanjali Yoga Sutra because I can speak to others saying that, I have learned it. I want to tell you what is Patanjali. No, sir, telling is not the purpose of Swadhyaya. It is just because for the Satsanga, the company of truth, you may express your thoughts from the learning that you have done, but the expression of thoughts is not for making others feel that you are a learned person, but it is for you to delve deep inside your mind to know where do you stand vis-a-vis what you have studied. The first and the primary purpose of Swadhyaya is to estimate where you are. If I read Sthita Prajna Lakshanam from Bhagavad Gita and go to the next adhyaya without thinking whether I am a Sthita Prajna, if I am not, how far I am from Sthita Prajnata, then that Swadhyaya is a useless chewing of cud. we have to brood and ruminate on what we read. Whenever you are alone, and try to be alone, solitude is must. And solitude is not shutting the door and enclosing yourself in a closed room. Solitude is right when you are sitting amongst many people. If everyone is talking, keep quiet and detach yourself from another people who are talking, and think, and think. Swadhyaya is thinking of thought is adhayaya, and thinking of world is a dissipation of energy. You think about your thought, that is svadhyaya. And look at you, analyze you, we will realize we think about everything in this world, but we never think about our thought. Thinking of our thought is swadhyaya. I looked at a woman and felt something inside. So the mind was thinking about the woman or a delicious object of eating, and was contemplating in future about certain ideas. What happened? The mind is thinking about the world. No. A swadhyaya would mean immediately the mind should think about the thought that I was thinking about the woman. Why? Is it right? What can I do to stop it? From where this tendency is coming? How are my samskaras? How my vasana about the lust, about the things is so deep? What can I do to get rid of it? What are the ways of getting rid of it? Which scripture I can use to get rid of my vasanas? What are the methods of getting rid of vasanas? What is happening now? We are thinking about the thought, not about the object. Thinking about thought is swadhyaya, but thinking about thought cannot be a very mature process unless the thoughts are juxtaposed against the thoughts of great stalwarts. Thoughts of great stalwarts is a shastra. So all Santa Vachana, all the utterances of Swami's caliber, as well as those which are apaurushaya, the Vedas and the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of the Lord, all these are the thoughts expressed by them, against which we compare and analyze our thoughts. This process is called a swadhyaya. It is fine if you remember what you have learned. It is fine if you remember the shloka, well and good. But that is not the purpose of swadhyaya. I cannot remember the shlokas from Bhagavad Gita, then I cannot reproduce it, and then people cannot call me intelligent, because if I produce one after other the Sanskrit shlokas, I am considered as a very intelligent person, and it impresses the people. When I impress the people, it satisfies me. This is all but a complete stupidity of swadhyaya. Swadhyaya is for yourself, it's not for others. You are trying to fetch the water from the rivers of Shastra to quench the thirst of your knowledge so that you can expand your consciousness. If while fetching so few drops get dropped around, that is a logical corollary. But the purpose of knowledge is not for distribution. Purpose of knowledge is first for your own utilization. The distribution of knowledge happens automatically. A perfume need not have to think about giving this fine aroma to all the people. The very presence of perfume itself is enough for the aroma to spread around. So moment you start studying and doing swadhyaya, the aroma of that knowledge would naturally start spreading to others. Mind well, one of the great defect in Svadhyaya is it can embolden ego. If a Svadhyaya is going towards emboldening the ego, the whole purpose of Svadhyaya is lost. You are in a wrong direction. You will become a Pandita. Our job is not to become a Pandita, but to become an Acharya. That one who does Acharana. Acharana, as Gandhiji said, an ounce of Acharana is far bigger than tons of study. So Swadhyaya, we must know why I am doing Swadhyaya. One. Two, no Swadhyaya is complete. What is the point in only drinking water or only eating food if it is not digested? The whole purpose of eating is lost if the food is not digested. So whole purpose of reading, studying is lost if it is not undergone mananam, brooding, thinking, and it's a constant process. While walking on the road, maybe for the morning walk, think about the Lord, relationship of Lord with this. Look at the flower. Think why it is flowering. Why is it that it is such a beautiful color? I feel I have no connection with that flower apparently, but why I feel good when I look at that flower? And then the thought process would start that the God has given this flower a color. The color attracts me. I become happy. I have no relation whatsoever on the outer aspect, but I have a deep relation with that flower. It also belongs to the same consciousness to which I belong. That old remnant of my consciousness is now expressing it today as an attraction towards the flower. The beauty that is seen around in the nature is nothing else but the expression of consciousness. One of the way of the expression of Shakti of the Chaitanya is the beauty all around. Think of that when you see a beautiful woman. She's not a woman for you, she's an epitome of beauty. The beauty comes from Saundarya, comes from whom? From the Shakti, the Devi part of it. Then why not enjoy the beauty? Yes, the Ahlad that I get is because of the Ahladini Shakti, which is inherent in me. The connection that I'm able to make around with the surroundings. See, what has happened in all this discussion is we are just trying to constantly brood about what we have thought. A flower is enough for us to take into this direction of the thinking of consciousness. So are the animals, so is the wind that is blowing around us. So is the sun that is blazing with a scorchy heat. Who placed the sun there? How long the sun has been there? What purpose it is serving? Who made this particular huge sphere of boiling heat and suspended it in the air for billions of years? And yet in Bhagavad Gita, in 4th adhayaya, Bhagavan said, I taught this dharma or this knowledge to Vaivasvata, the sun. How is it that Bhagavan must have taught it to the sun? Because sun is not like me. Then why did he say that he taught it to the sun? This is Svadhyaya. There will be questions, and there should be questions, hundreds of them, where answers are not coming. And that is why you need to go back to the scriptures, back to the saintly utterances, study them, try to get the answer out of them, get convinced about the answer, reconcile every doubt in your mind. The doubt should be purely spiritual. Entire process is called Svadhyaya. So Svadhyaya is Moksha Shastranam Adhyayanam Pranava Japova. The second part of Adhyaya now we are coming. One is reading of scriptures, saintly utterances, and thinking about it, doing mananam and applying it to our daily practices, Swadhyaya. And the second part is pranava japova. The utterances of mantra is a part of swadhyaya. The omkara japa, the pranava japa. I am 100% sure that at this stage we do not understand what do you mean by saying only om, 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 om. What omkar will do? We are far away from the fact that how omkara, if Gurudev says, I constantly stay in omkar, the significance of pranava japa or omkar or other japas like mantras like Gayatri mantra, we will not understand because we are at a lower level of consciousness. Mantras have emanated, originated, and they keep vibrating at a higher level of consciousness. To think of higher level of consciousness means to think of mantra. So mantra is a ladder which takes you from the lower realm of consciousness to the higher realm of consciousness. If you do not know what use the ladder is, the best part is to keep climbing. If we do not know, if we are not aware of the power of the mantra, then the best part is instead of dissecting it, it is better we start repeating it. While repeating, the way while climbing you will reach up, while repeating the mantra, we will reach higher and higher level of consciousness. So for the mantra, when we recite the mantra, it is expected that the mantra alone preoccupies the space of mind. So when we take an omkara for the mantra japa, we are completely surrounded with the closed eyes. The whole thing that is seen by the inner eye is getting filled with that omkara that we do. And when you take a deep breath in, and then you start your omkara as the whole mind gets filled with vibrations of omkara. Remember, if we do not get any immediate result, we are not even aware that we have already got the result. And the result is cutting all the ties with the external world. The mind is for a moment without thoughts. There is a pause in the working of the machine called mind. And this is just the beginning. As we repeat, we learn to repel the thoughts and fill the mind with the mantra. As we do this mantra, definitely there is release of energy. The reason is thinking or thoughts is dissipation of energy, as Gurudeva calls it. And when I am not thinking, what happens to the energy? The energy gets accumulated. The virium, the energy, this energy lifts ourselves mentally upwards. This upward movement is the movement aided and abated by the uchchar of the mantra. So this is why we have to do a mantra japa of either our Ishta Devata or Pranava, that is Omkara, or Gayatri mantra, which is essentially has to be a part of Svadhyaya. If Swadhyaya is done with this much of background, every piece of information can be utilized as a scripture. If you are a computer operator, and if you look at the screen and wonder how a small thing called a motherboard carries that particular processor which does so many things and ultimately gives me those figures or the numbers or the alphabets on the screen. Even this information from the day-to-day science can be then extrapolated towards our own information. What about my processor, which processes the information and gives me thoughts on the screen of my mind? Every beat of information, every beat of thought can be directed towards the spiritual thinking. And analyze yourself. Every beat of our thought is going outwards towards the senses, naturally because of the vasanas of yesteryears. They have thickened, they have ossified, crystallized around us. We need to break them. But breaking is not going to happen overnight. When a sculptor is sculpting a sculpture out of the stone, he doesn't make the stone idle right away. He keeps on hitting it slowly, one stroke by stroke. This stroke by stroke is sadhana. So swadhyaya as a sadhana is a continuing process, not for half an hour before breakfast Friday morning. That is for the beginners. And how long we are going to sit in the first standard? When are we going to go more forward? And that is why swadhyaya Vedo nityam adhiyatam taduditam karmam swanushthiyatam. Nitya, Veda should be adhiyatam, studied, and accordingly the karma should be anushtiyatam. And then comes the last niyama called Ishwara Pranidhana. When the word Ishwara came here in yoga, everybody started shouting that, look, yoga has Ishwara, Sankhya doesn't talk of Ishwara. That is why it is called Nirishwara Tattva Jnana, Sankhya, while yoga is Sa Ishwara Satattva Jnana. Sir, these are all superficial differences. Ishwara, the only word used as Ishwara by Patanjali Maharaj in this particular Yoga Shastra has a much deeper and different connotation than the creator Ishwara that we have as a connotation in Bhakti Shastra. In Bhakti Shastra, the creator of this world is Narayana, Vishnu, etc. Patanjali Maharaj takes Ishwara as one of the Vishesha Purusha. Remember, we have seen it in Sadhana Pad, the definition of Ishwara given there is a Savishesha Purushaha, which is with Klesha Rahitya. A Purusha which does not have Klesha at all is called Ishwara according to Sankhya as well as Yoga. The word Ishwara does not appear in Sankhya Tattva Jnana, it appears in Yoga Tattva Jnana, but it means that there is a Purusha, because there are many jivas who reached away from Prakriti, reached Kaivalya and became Purusha. But those are Sadharana Purushas. There is a Vishesha Purusha. Vishesha Purusha means the one which has never caught itself into kleshas, one who never came under the sway of Prakriti. That Purusha is called Ishwara according to Yoga Shastra. And then you have to surrender to that Ishwara. What is the concept of Ishwara in Yoga? It is slightly different than that is there in the Jnana. The difference is very subtle. It is not a very stark difference. Here, what am I trying to do as a yogi? As a yogi, I am trying to expand my consciousness so that I can overcome the kleshas. Klesha rahitata means getting out of this prakriti, means getting out of these trigunas, means becoming triguna-tita. This triguna-tita, if I have to do, then I have to follow whom? I have to follow the one who has gone ahead. So the one which is there at the tip, at the kutastha, at the top of the mountain, I have to always keep him in mind while climbing the mountain. So that is why the power, the force that is there in this world is coming from whom? it's coming from that top person called Ishvara. If the power and the force is emanating from there, and I am using the force to go upwards, then naturally I have to thank whom? I have to thank the person who is giving me the force to move upwards. And when I know that I am moving upwards because of the force or the power given by that person sitting at the top called Ishvara, then naturally I would say that, oh Lord, it is you who are taking me upwards. I cannot do it on my own. That means I will not do anything. You have to do everything because it is your force that will take me upwards. So I will be saying, Lord, it is not mine, thy will be done. So I surrender to that force. This is surrendering to the ultimate force, which is nothing else but the Vishesha Purusha, which is something which is without klesh forever, is called Ishvara Pranidhana. Surrendering to the Lord, surrendering to the supreme yogi or Vishesha Purusha called Ishvara. So how do you do this surrender? Parama Guroho. That is why Ishvara is called Parama Gurau. Parama Gurau Sarva Karmanam Arpanam. This is Ishwar Pranidhana. What is the karma you are doing? Oh, I'm doing the karma of earning money. Sir, we are talking about a far higher karma. This is a far lower karma. It is a binding karma. The yogi is doing a karma of all this sadhana that he's doing is nothing else but karma only. He's trying to purify his heart. He's trying to follow yama niyama. While doing all these karmas, I will be able to do this karma only if I'm blessed with the blessings or the force or the energy or the power from the Lord. So I am doing this all karma for what? So that I can reach the Lord. So that is why karma is not important for me. The blessings that will come to me because of the karma is important for me. So what I do a karma and give it to the Lord, saying that, look, Lord, I did a karma to come close to you. Please accept it so that you can give me blessings. This is called karma arpana. We feel karma arpana means I am losing my right on the karma and giving it to the Lord. Sir, you do not have the right on the karma. Karma is just an act given to you so that you can climb up higher. When you are climbing on the staircase, how can you be clinging to the staircase? You cannot be clinging to the staircase because staircase, however beautiful it may be, you are supposed to put your foot and go up. So karma is nothing else but a staircase foot where you put your foot to go upwards and you are trying to cling to the karma. No, you are supposed to give up that karma and move upwards to the next step, next karma. Till the time the karma ladder is over and jnanam starts. So that is why all karmas that we do, leaving the karma after completion there and moving forward is nothing else but leaving the karma to the Lord, because the ladder belongs to the Lord, not to you. Unfortunately, everyone is clinging to the ladder. Nobody is moving up, rather coming down. This is called sarva karma arpanam. Sarva karmanam arpanam parama gurau. To him, everything. That means what? Thy will be done. While doing this, sometimes when you are doing, for example, let us say we want to go to our teacher and tell him that, sir, because of you, I passed the examination. Do we go and say very dryly that, sir, because of you, I passed the examination, thank you, bye-bye? We don't do that. What happens? Moment you say, or let us say we want to tell it to Gurudeva, that Gurudeva, because of you, I'm studying this particular Bhagavad Gita. Do we say like this or do we say like this, Gurudev? How can I tell you? Because of you, I am a man, otherwise I would have been a demon. And while saying this, you start getting tears in your eyes. Why? It's a statement you are supposed to make. Why you are getting tears in your eyes? Why don't we go and tell our mother that, mother, I really, really love you? We don't say this. While saying this, tears come in our eyes. Why? You're supposed to express. No, you can express only in one word. To a fiancé, if you go and say dryly, I love you, thank you, bye-bye, what will happen? She will walk away. Why? While telling, the emotions come out. That is why while doing Ishwar Pranidhana, while doing Arpanam of Karma to the Ishwara, because of the greatness, because of the respect, when we respect somebody, when we adore somebody, the words naturally get impregnated with emotions. Emotion is an essential component that is there as a part of Lord in us as a Shakti. This emotion, when it gets merged with the feelings, get merged with what you are expressing, then this Sarva Karmanam Arpanam starts moving towards Bhakti. The act of Arpana Karma starts moving, because you start now, every now and then, when you think of, this is Lord's, this is done by Lord, this is because of Lord, it is my Lord, it is my Lord. What happens? Automatically self-surrender happens. So Ishwara Pranidhana can lead to Bhakti also. And the Bhakti Marga through Ishwara Pranidhana alone completes all the yoga and all the samadhis only by one method, which is called Bhakti Marga. So it has been alleged upon Yoga Shastra that, it is a very dry science. It is not so. A yogi is a soft-hearted person. A yogi is definitely a very kind and a compassionate person. The kindness and compassion comes only from this emotional component, which is exhibited while doing Ishwara Pranidhana. So Ishwar Pranidhan is nothing but best of the bhakti, but it all depends upon how much emotional component you have. Each personality is not sentimental. So a yogi need not be as sentimental as a bhakta. If it is as sentimental as a bhakta, he will go towards bhakti and still carry forward the yoga, while the others will have that enormous respect inside them and can carry on their own path. But remember, Ishwara Pranidhana has an enormous role in niyama to play, and it has been put at the last of the niyamas, because the very reason why the Purusha and the Prakriti conjunction happened, Sanyoga happened, is because of that the Ahankara has developed. It is the Asmita, the I-ness, it is me-mindness that has complicated the presence of us in this world. Our presence has been a very noble and a divine presence in the world. It has become ignoble or undivine because of this ego called I or Asmita. Now this Asmita is to be constantly and slowly dissolved. It has to be truncated, made smaller and smaller so that it disappears. Ishwar Pranidhana has a big role to play in abolition of this ego or Asmita. All the further studies which are expected to be done in the sadhana pada, all the samadhis that are to be undertaken after the Chitta Shuddhi, Yama Niyama is for Chitta Shuddhi. After Chitta Shuddhi, the real journey starts. In that real journey, this last niyama called Ishwar Pranidhan helps a lot, because for the higher flights into the consciousness, ego cannot be there. With ego, you cannot enter into the field of samadhi. Ego is a huge burden in mind. The mind has to be very small, penetrating, sharp, and sattva guna yukta to enter into the field of samadhi. If it is burdened with a huge ego, you cannot reach there. Sant Kabir is describing this particular aspect in a very fine manner. Kabira ka ghar shikhar par. Kabira stays at the top. That means at the end of asampradnyat samadhi. Kabira ka ghar shikhar par jahan sil halisi gail. That means there is a very narrow path to reach there. Kabira ka ghar shikhar par jahan sil halisi gail pavan tike papil ka. The road is so small, even the ant's foot cannot be put there. It is so small. Sukshmata. Kabira ka ghar shikhar par jahan sil halisi gail pavan tike papil ka tu manwa lade bail. You are putting a huge ox, buffalo on your mind and trying to enter there. This bail is nothing but ego, ahankara. So with ahankara, even a trace of it will not make you eligible to enter into the final realms of consciousness. In fact, sadhana is nothing else but a progress in decrease of ahankara. Lower the ahankara, higher the sadhana. Lower the ahankara, higher we have reached. So asmita destruction can only happen if Ishvara Pranidhana is there. So one of the main purpose of Ishvara Pranidhana is to develop what is called as asmita rahitya. And remember, asmita rahitya, reduction in ego, means increment in vairagya. They are two sides of same coin. Becoming more and more vairagya purna is becoming less and less in ego. Ahankara and vairagya are in certain proportion. Higher the ahankara, lower the vairagya. Lower the ahankara, higher the vairagya. So when vairagya reaches last stage, para vairagya, we have seen that while studying vairagya. When ahankara becomes almost zero, then the vairagya goes to para vairagya. When ahankara becomes zero, the awareness of me as me vanishes. And when ahankara of me has vanished, there is no vairagya to be practiced because you are one. Vairagya is giving up. When you are one, you cannot give up. So that is why annihilation of ahankara is complete development of vairagya, or which is called para vairagya. And in order to do that, we need to have Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender everything to the Lord. And this is a very conscious sadhana that one has to practice. Analyze yourself in the whole day and you will realize 23 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds. We are doing everything in this world because we feel I can influence the things. We make plans, we make strategies, we work, everything from egocentric actions we are doing. And here we are talking of living. So it's not an easy art because of repetitive influence of egocentric activities for millions of births. But somewhere the start has to be done. So Ishwar Pranidhana, Vinaya, Namrata is the sign. Namrata not to show to the people. While delivering a lecture, if I say Gurudev has been great and if I say thank you because of him, I'm there, it is a false Vinaya. The Vinaya has to emanate inside. For Vinaya also we require adhikar. A true seeker never claims anything because he knows what can he claim when everything is given to the Lord. If at all you want to thank Lord, not me. I am just an expression of Lord. He speaks through my mouth. How lucky I am. How lucky my mouth is that it always takes the name of Narayana. This is the attitude. Unfortunately, Moment somebody says, oh, you are well learned, the whole bungalow gets demolished, because ahankara sprouts without your knowledge. Ahankara gives a different kind of satisfaction, which is a futile satisfaction, but we get infatuated by that. In order to get out of this, Ishvara Pranidhanam is important. With this, we have completed the Yama and the Niyama, the 5 Yama and 5 Niyama. Now comes the question. Everybody must be thinking how difficult it is. Patanjali Maharaj is not giving any excuse. Even Ahimsa is so strict about it. How in the day-to-day world I can do it? We are trying to tell Patanjali Maharaj to come down rather than we going up. And Patanjali Maharaj is not going to budge. He says a complete chastity is needed. Chitta Shuddhi is purely, completely needed. You can't be 99.9% Chitta Shuddha, 100%. Why? That is the condition for moving forward. Then comes the question, every time I go out in this world, all the negative things are coming. What is given in Yama Niyama, exactly opposite is coming in my mind. I see somebody offering me some food, and immediately in my mind, I feel like, how do I work then? Because everywhere I go, I have completely 180-degree opposite emotions in my mind, thoughts in my mind, as against what Patanjali Maharaj is saying. And that is why Patanjali Maharaj, anticipating this, has given the next mantra, which is very important for us. Vitarka badhane pratipaksha bhavanam. Vitarka badhane pratipaksha bhavanam. So this is a technique of how to implement Yama and Niyama. What that technique is, what is this pratipaksha bhavana, how to inculcate it so that the sadhana becomes more strong, we shall see it in the next session. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnam Nidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om. Sanjay Ji will wait for some questions.
Hari Om. Sanjay Ji, this Moksha Shastranam Adhyayanam Pranava Shastradva.